8 things I wish I knew before retiring. It's been 3 years, guys. It's been 3 years now. Here are 8 things I wish I knew, positive and negative, before I retired. It's, before I retired, I was worried about a lot of things, how I would handle things. But then you're also surprised by things that happen in retirement that you might not have expected before. So, for those of you who are retired recently, long time, let me know, what were your big surprises? Here are 8 things that I wish I knew before I retired. Number 1, 3 years in, I don't worry so much about finances. And when I first started, retiring on moderate income, I retired on a little over $500,000. You're worried about a lot of things regarding finances. And then 6 months into retirement, I get whopped up the side of my head by sequence of returns risk. Was I worried? Yeah, I was worried about my finances. That's why one of the things you got to do in moderate retirement is get either a part-time job or a side hustle in order to give you more peace of mind. Now, you don't have to do this, but it definitely gives you more peace of mind. I can't tell you how much less I worry about my finances now 3 years in than I did, let's say, the first year and a half. Man, it was getting pretty bad, to the point of sometimes I was like, did I make the right choice here? Yeah, it was pretty bad at times. So and these 8 points are in no particular order, but that was a big, dare I say, huge thing that came up during retirement that has really surprised me to the good. Hey, for those of you who see me for the first time, my name is Duane, and this is a channel on retiring on moderate income. If you think you might like that, think about subscribing. And down here, you can buy me a coffee if you really like it, really, really. Number 2, early retirement may cause some friction with your friends. You wouldn't really think about that. I had no idea going into it. I didn't think that would happen, but there have been cases, I'd say a handful of cases, where that has been the issue. Maybe it's someone you haven't talked to in a while, and they're like, so what have you been doing? I go, well, I just retired. And then you hear on the other side of the phone, oh, okay, that's great. And then they start talking about themselves again. Not like I want to parade because I retired, but you'd think they'd ask a little more in-depth questions on that. Now, what is the reason for that? I don't know. Confusion? Jealousy? I have no idea. There have been a couple other instances where, you don't even have to be talking to them. Just texting. Hey, what have you been up to? There was this girl that got in touch with me. Hadn't texted back and forth with her for probably about 10 years. She's like, hey, how you doing? How's everything going? I go back, great, I just retired. Crickets. She was the one who initiated the conversation. Crickets, right after that response. So that's one thing I wish I knew before I retired. So you might be a little better prepared for that. Number 3, moderate isolation is good for the soul. That's one of the things I was worried about before I retired. You got a lot more time on your hands. Now, I'm pretty much an introvert by nature, not an extreme introvert, but I'm not an extreme extrovert, that's for sure. But still, and I'm pretty good with being on my own, but still, it's like you got a lot of time. And especially when I moved up here to the high desert, how are you going to deal with all that time on your own? I'm telling you, after 3 years, in my case, moderate isolation is good for the soul. It just takes everything down. All that stress you were dealing with before, you don't have to. In my job, it was very people heavy when I was working. There were a lot of times I didn't want to interact with people that much. But now, moderate isolation, and for me, in my case, it works great because I'm up here in the high desert for a week, 2 weeks, whatever. Then I go down and see my girlfriend for a week, 2 weeks in Los Angeles. So when I get to the point, now I know this may be a unique situation, but I'm telling you what I have learned. This is something that I really wish I knew before I retired, and I would have done it a lot sooner. I get up here, I'm isolated for a week, 2 weeks, whatever. I start getting antsy. I go down to Los Angeles. I'm with my girlfriend for a week or 2 weeks. I start getting tired of the traffic, all the attitudes and stuff. I come back up. So moderate isolation has been good for my soul. Number 4, part-time work / side hustle, that cool, crazy phrase. It's something you don't have to do in moderate retirement. You know, you could get by. I could get by without my YouTube income here. But it's not a chore. If you find something that you really like doing and it can bring you in some income, man, I would have had no idea before I retired that could be the case. When I retired, I'm retired. That's it. But then I'm looking around going, you know what? Why not? Delve into something that you have interest in, that you may really like, and see if it can bring some money in. Why not? Even if you have more than a moderate retirement. You know, if you're sitting around not doing much all day long, bring money in through something that you have enjoyment with. In my case, it's this YouTube channel. It's also my writing. I write horror novels. Well, semi-horror, light horror, let's say. So why not, guys? Why not? That's one thing I wish I knew before retirement, is that just because you're retired doesn't mean you're just going to sit around and do nothing all day. There's options. There's options. Little dry mouth up here in the high desert today. Number 5. I've become more empathetic and compassionate due to the lack of stress in my life. Yeah, I remember when I was working, it's like, you know, at times, not always, wasn't an everyday thing. I had some stressful periods at work, you know, and I'd say maybe, I don't know, could be for a couple months straight. Then I go back to normal. Could be a couple weeks that are just like boom, boom, boom. That stress made me irritable. Didn't have much empathy, much compassion. Man, I wish I knew this before I retired. I would have probably retired a couple years earlier if I could have swung it. I don't know if 2 years before. It might have been a little tight, but I might have done it. If I would have known that the way you treat people changes when you take out that whole stress component. That's a big thing I've realized in retirement. Number 6, you have lots of time to just think. Now, this can be a positive or a negative thing. Before you retire, for those of you, let's say, who are in your 40s now, thinking about retiring, I don't know, early 50s, you think you might know that there's tons of time in retirement? You have no idea. Like I've said in the video before, I think I might have said this in my first video on 8 things I wish I knew before retirement, after I think it was a year of retirement. You go out, do your errands in the morning, come back. It's 11 a.m. What are you going to do for the rest of the day? There is so much time on your hands in retirement. Now, it can be tricky at times. If you're in a down period, you can just ruminate those thoughts, ruminate all day long in your head. The key is to get yourself out of your head and onto other people and other things. That's the best way to take care of those ruminating thoughts. If you get them positive, man, I've got so much time to think of other things I want to do in retirement. There's a lot of things I want to do. I might, like I said on videos before, I want to take some classes on how to do stuff. Welding, I'd have a lot of interest. Like, see this guy back here? Can you see him? Am I pointing to nope, wrong way, sorry. This guy. I'd love to be able to weld things like that. Just lawn art, yard art, whatever you want to call it. I think that's so cool. That's a skill. I don't know. Am I going to be good at it? I have no idea, but there's so much time that you can find out. Okay? So positive and negative with the time. Number 7, you have a lot more time to make friends. Now, I was never, someone who didn't have many friends. I had friends. I'd say maybe more than a handful, 2 handfuls of good friends, really good friends. Could have been friends I grew up with. But up here, I've made a lot of friends because I have a lot of time on my hand to make friends. Before I retired, that was kind of a worry. If you're going to move away to somewhere remote, you could triple slap for that, man. I'm going senile. Are you going to be able to make friends? I wasn't sure. Yes, you have more time in your hands. You can spend more time cultivating friendships, right? I've made some good friends up here in the little over 2 years now that I've been here. Yeah, don't worry about it, guys. You get time on your hands. You can make friends. And number 8, going from a saving to a spending mentality comes naturally over time. The first year, let's say, yeah, that's tough. You spent all your time saving up all this money and now you got to spend it, right? That was a tough transition at first, but as you go on in retirement, that becomes easier, right? Yeah, you're not saving like you were, but if you can spend in a moderate way, like we do here in moderate retirement, it gets easier. It's like you see yourself, okay, I'm not bringing much income in. I'm bringing some in from my YouTube channel, but it's not like a full-time salary by any means that I used to make. That becomes easier over time. I wasn't sure before I retired. I was kind of worried about that. Like I said, first year, tough. Guys, I'm here to tell you, it gets easier. So there you go. There's 8 things I wish I knew before I retired after 3 years now in retirement. Hopefully that helps. And as always, guys, from the beautiful high desert, we got this.